Yo, yo, what's up, pups? And welcome to another episode of Emo Hair Flippin'. I can't do it because I am balding, unfortunately. Alas, I am not cursed with that. But
I'm getting there. It goes back. It recedes pretty far at this
mine
point. My
recedes.
forehead is
Oh my gosh, I think
huge.
mine's actually gotten worse. Yeah, I need to just start shaving the whole head. Oh well, whatever. Thus is life until I make that big internet money and then I can get hair implants or something. I don't know. Whatever.
That would be funny to go backwards, like after everyone's already known you for being, like for shaving your head for ages, and then you're like, boom, I got hair.
Boom, whatever. Yeah, I think that would be pretty funny. Just a nice twist, always keep them guessing sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we are back to another episode of the Power Up podcast. A podcast or really a show, doesn't matter. Call it what you will, but it is a
Yeah.
show that talks all things pop culture from comics to video games to manga to anime to movies, and we look over the good, the bad, the ugly, and sometimes even dabble in the supernatural slash demonic sort of thing, and kind of tying it to showcase and just to inform people that kind of want to know where all that stuff's coming from. We got some scriptural evidence that we can provide for you if the situation arises. It's always good to
Mm.
know. And that's which is kind of funny because with the whole GTA 6 trailer leak coming out, you have a bunch of topics that all stem from GTA 6. Have you seen that lately? Like, yeah, I'm sure that's blowing up. If you checked your Twitter, you probably seen people talking about it.
I have seen some action about it. I'm not 100% sure what the gripes are yet because I haven't watched the trailer like everyone else has.
I have.
Uh,
I thought it was meh, but
yeah.
I actually have it here, so we could probably watch it if you want to see what's
Uh,
up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we can even mute it too, because I mean, there's some dialogue, but it doesn't really tell you anything per se. So what's going on? I'll just say this. So from what I'm seeing on Twitter, is you're having a weird combination of a group of people saying, well, female lead character, so it's woke. So you have people going down that route.
Yeah.
Now there's this weird thing, like legit, like satanic panic is coming back. Like this is causing the weirdos of the satanic panic virtue, like coming out of the woodworks now, calling for its debauchery to be silenced and stuff like that. Which I could say, as someone of the faith and reading the scripture and stuff, a lot of these people don't really understand. If we're focused more on the satanic panic aspect of stuff, they don't really understand what they're yelling about. They just know like some umbrella terms sort of
Yeah.
thing. But you have those group of people, and then you're having, the people in the middle that are just like, well, it looks okay so far. It looks good to me. I'm one where I gave up on GTA like after Vice City. Like I stopped giving a crap about Grand Theft Auto. Like,
Yeah.
interesting enough, like when my when our folks gave for Christmas my brother and I a PlayStation 2, my brother got the game Grand Theft Auto 3 because the people told him, it's like, well, yeah, this one's the highest selling game at this time, but they kind of warned us what it all entails and stuff. And my folks determined that my brother was mature enough to handle that sort of stuff. And of course, I would watch him play, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And I got Dynasty Warriors 3, I think. I think that was around that time, Dynasty Warriors 3.
Pretty cool though.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I was introduced to Grand Theft Auto, because I never had a PS1, because Grand Theft Auto was
Mhm.
the PlayStation 1, how it's gone from over the top to now third action, what is it called? A third action camera view, like third player action. I know I'm saying that wrong, and I should know this, but I don't apparently. But it's the one where the camera's behind you, where you see the
Oh,
back, and you go. That's what it's called. Like you're third person action
Yeah.
playing, and then of course but then it can merge into your first person shooter, where you see your GoldenEye sort of setup, or Gears of War, whichever one, Halo sort of thing. So I kind of saw the evolution, but like I stopped giving a shit about Grand Theft Auto like after Vice City. I was like, okay, that's enough for me. I don't really care anymore. So
Yeah.
we have that to discuss. Obviously, since you're more of the comic book knowledge type people, we'll definitely want to talk about the whole fiasco with Nightcrawler and the two lesbos
Oh
uh,
man.
birthing apparently Nightcrawler, I guess.
It's
So
so
you can
stupid.
probably give, hoping you can give me more information on that, because what I've kind of dug into, like, it's weird. It's like, because the weirdos are going to be pushing about this and showing about, and they're going to go and claim like this is how it always was, or this is how it is, and this was always the thing. And I kind of saw that with Yellow Flash, like he made a tweet about that, and I got some woke heat in in sense, because I'm just like, well, I'm not, because all I said was I'm not surprised these people hate Christians, and then you got a group of people like saying like, well, hatred of conservative or of Christians is worth it because they're homophobic. I'm just like, oh gosh, you have no argument then. And then you have your people trying to say like, he's Catholic, right? Nightcrawler's Catholic, he's not Christian. And it's like, you do realize where Catholicism came from, right? Like, you
Well,
do realize that, like, when you were a Jew who believed in Christ during the Greek time, you were called a Christian. You do realize that, right? And then from there, it stemmed out into different denominations. And then, unfortunately, to me, a lot of paganism reinserted back into it.
yeah.
Same
Well,
with
the people.
Catholicism. I'll be the first to tell you Catholicism is probably not the way to go.
Well, the whole thing is like, to a super liberal, there's no difference between the denominations. So
That's where I got up.
Some super Christian pointing out, oh, they're not Christian. It's like, dude, to the person that's making this argument doesn't care if you define a difference between a Lutheran and a Catholic and a Baptist. It's all the same shit to the ultra liberal. So it's like it's a moot point. It has no relevance to what
Mhm,
they're discussing. It's like it has nothing to do with it. The point is they hate Christians, and that's why they do this petty, weird nonsense,
mhm,
irritate people because they don't care about the characters, they don't care about the source material, they don't care about the groundwork and the years of stuff
mhm,
laid before it. It's just
mhm,
about fucking up and ruining something
mhm.
that people love.
And I think that'll be a rabbit hole we'll go down here. But other stuff I have planned. I found an article about supposedly a new Constantine 2 movie in the works, and I think Keanu would repress his roles. I love me Constantine. I'm actually reading Hellblazer, and I'm really enjoying it. Uh, Weird stuff. Obviously, you got to watch out for that. That stuff I will tell you, just because if Constantine was created by Alan Moore, and we all know who, Alan Moore, he loves that witchcraft stuff. So that one I would probably be like, yeah, just be wary of that sort of stuff, because he could be actually talking about stuff.
He's like a
But I'm not.
mentally ill British snake handler. Like,
Yeah,
imagine some crazy church snake handler from the Appalachian Mountains mixed with a Satanist, mixed with a British person, mixed with a
yeah,
guy that looks like caught out of
yeah.
a swamp.
I know for me, I'm just like, well, I'm protected. I can, I'm protected. I can discharge a lot of, if there's any sort of energy behind it, sort of thing. But I'm
Yeah.
not worried about it. But it was still like some interesting stuff, very interesting stuff. But I am enjoying the story. So I got found an article on Constantine, and then an interesting one with Kelsey Grammer, because he obviously doesn't follow the ideology of STEM, and we all know that Kelsey Grammer. Again, I didn't read the full article, but if we remember the old school X-Men movies back in the day, you had X-Men X2, and then X-Men 3: The Last Dance, which a lot of people didn't like. But Kelsey Grammer played Beast, and I guess he made an appearance in the Marvel movie as Beast.
Yeah.
But who knows if that's gonna continue, because in a recent interview, apparently he talked about Trump, and Trump deranged syndrome is still running rampant throughout a bunch of people. And then the Legend of Zelda live action movie. The director says that if he could, he would want to make it as a sort of live action with a Miyazaki style to it. So,
Ooh,
so I have some
I can
stuff.
dig that.
Yeah. Maybe we'll start with that one. We'll start off slow and then
Yeah.
slowly go into the insanity that is Grand Theft Auto, uh, Nightcrawler's parents apparently shitting out a baby from their butt based on the panel. Because have you seen that? Have you seen the people that like redrawn like the positions and are like, how is this
Yeah.
even possible? Because it's straight up like you can't see it any other way. It's straight up a doctor like pulling Nightcrawler out of the ass.
It's so stupid.
And that was something
Not,
like I was saying, I wanted to get your opinion on too,
yeah.
because kind of what I've found from the history of something is that was kind of something that they did want to do a while back, but someone big was like, nope, we're slapping that concept down. Apparently,
Yeah.
it was a concept that never came to the light of day for, as far as I could tell, the right reason because it's retarded. but
Yeah.
but now they're, now that these people have found it and they're now using it to retcon everything, now they're all happy. It's like this was always the plan and stuff. And it's like, but we'll get there. But let's go ahead and we'll bring up this article I found at Video Games Chronicle. And this is the Legend of Zelda one. Share that. Yeah. All right. Let me adjust that. I need more than 2 monitors. In time.
Need like 8 monitors.
Yeah. I mean, I do have these wall mounting, like the wall mounts that you can put up your monitor, but I'm in an apartment and I don't feel like repairing stuff whenever we leave. Sort of
Yeah.
things like, ugh.
Yep.
So, live action, Legend of Zelda movie director said he would love it to be like a live action Miyazaki. Wes Ball says his whole life has led up to this moment. Well, that's like the subtitle or the subtext of it. Hey, are you related to him? Wes Wes
I hope so.
Ball?
It's possible.
Make some phone
Every
calls. Feel his
every
up.
person I've known with that last name ends up being related to me, actually. So it wouldn't shock me.
All right. Well, we've got an end. I'm confident that you're related in some way. So now all we got to do is like when one of the family member wins $1 million, all the relatives you never knew or talked to in your life come out of the woodwork to ask for something.
Yep. Yep. I'll be like, it's your turn. We're coming to pester you now, dude. You knew this was going to happen. You should change your phone number.
So the director of the upcoming The Legend of Zelda movie has discussed his vision for the live action adaptation. It was announced last month that the film will be helmed by Wes Ball, the director behind the Maze Runner trilogy and next year's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, he said his vision for the movie is inspired by the work of Studio Ghibli co-founder and Spirited Away director Hayao Miyazaki. He told the publication he sees the Zelda film as, quote, this awesome fantasy adventure movie that isn't like Lord of the Rings. It's its own thing. I've always said I would love to see a live action Miyazaki, that wonder and whimsy that he brings to things. I would love to see something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Ball, who said as far back as 2010 that he hoped someone would bring Zelda to the big screen, claimed, it's going to be awesome. My whole life has led up to this moment. I grew up on Zelda. Questioning. X to doubt, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not familiar with Wes, so I don't know. But I don't know, especially nowadays where everyone says, like, I grew up with this. It's like, did you, though? Did you really? I don't know.
They're the product they produce sometimes makes you feel like they might be fibbing a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not familiar with him because I never got into the Planet of the Apes and what was the other one? Maze Runner or something?
Yeah.
Maze Runner. Grew up on Zelda and it's the most important property, I think, that's untapped IP, if you will. Yeah, I think. Did you ever stop and maybe consider there's a reason why it was untapped and left alone? Maybe because live action may not be able to do it justice, but who knows? So
I personally think it's because Nintendo is smart and is very careful these days. You know,
yeah, I
they're
think
not.
out of all, definitely out of all the studios, as much as Nintendo is assholes in their own way, like when it comes to piracy and stuff like that, definitely with their property, they're at least smart enough to know.
Yeah,
All learned
who
way
did
back in the day from the live action Super Mario Brothers, which
Yeah,
I love that movie.
no, that is not Mario. Like I can only get through it if I just pretend it's some weird one-off thing that has nothing to do with Mario Brothers. You know.
I I enjoy it just because they tried their best from what they could do with like the concept of Mario, but
Yeah,
we all know that the production behind it was awful.
nightmare film from everything I've heard and read about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, it was bad. It went through multiple directors. The very first script was supposed to be like super dark and you still kind of see that dark element to it. But then yeah, but I don't know. It's one of those for me. It's like it's one of those I like it probably more so because it makes me think of like the 90s and the 80s, 80s 90s thing. And that's probably why I like it, not so much because it's a accurate representation of Mario. By no means is it. I mean, you got some stuff here and there to be like, "Oh, it's they said Toad, like Toad from the game," even
Yeah.
though it's not Toad at all. Toad never doesn't play a harmonica.
You know, I agree with you in that aspect that you're approaching it from because there are plenty of like
Mhm.
properties, whether it be like movies or music or games that are completely terrible that I love just because they remind me of the era. You know, just because I can
Yeah,
kind of go back
like
and
I
find
think if Mario's the one that makes you remind of the era, but a terrible job of the game, I would say the one that got it right is still the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live action one, the
Mhm.
first
They
one.
did a really good job with that. It was
That one was that's dope. I love that one.
it hit all the marks. It had the fan service for the people that were in the comics, or the fan service for the people that were like my age that were finding it through toys and cartoons.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I mean, a
you know,
lot of people
it's well
kind of
done.
have thoughts about. Well, you got the first one where everyone's like, "Yep, this was a good movie." The best it could probably do at the time. And then you
Yeah,
got your two, which is more like, yeah, they toned down the violence a little bit, but it's more based on the action figures now because a lot of people realize it, so they have to appeal to the kids, so they're not using their weapons as much, not as gritty, but still enjoyable. And then that one, that third one,
the,
that third one, we'll just say that one.
the one nobody's even seen, even people that love turtles. You know, it's like
Oh,
and
but
then go.
you wanna know what's so funny is and yet I was one of the people that remember watching the 3rd one all the time. We actually had the official copy of the VHS of the 3rd one,
Yeah,
but we had the old school VHS recording of the 1st and 2nd one, you know,
yeah, like
pirate style. That's
just
how we did it, and for just because we had tons of movies of, stuff we recorded off the TV, do you want to look through and see where's the one that the turtles is in there somewhere and we just have to fast forward to it, or just grab three and just put it in because it's just
yeah,
the movie. That's how it
yeah.
was.
Well, in that regard too, like sometimes just growing up around stuff, even if it's not good, yeah,
Mhm.
you can grow an appreciation through it just from watching it
Oh,
all the time.
I'll still,
Yeah.
you can
So,
still quote stuff from that movie. Help, I'm a turtle and I can't get up. It's so stupid, but yeah, you
yeah.
remember it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, good old Ninja Turtles.
Good old
It's
turtles.
crazy
That's
to think
actually,
how long
I
it's
actually
been
did read the
around.
Mirage comic. I actually would wanna. That's one of
Mhm.
the comic series I wouldn't mind trying to pick up and get into.
They're good. The old stuff's fun. It's a little different, but I mean the spirit of it's still all there.
Mhm.
You know, um, and just what little rabble rousers they were sometimes. Like they would be learning from Master Splinter and learning these ways of honor and all this kind of stuff. And then you'd have like maybe like a few books later, they're in a fight with like a Triceratops from space,
Mhm.
and they all realize like the only way we're going to take this dude down is if we all just gang it, like no one's gonna win this individual fight. He's just beating the crap out of us. And then you see him just all stab and poke, like literally just trying to kill this critter. Like how quick they can go from like honorable fighting to all right, we're just gonna have to gang up on this guy and all stab as hard as possible.
Well,
And
just like against the Shredder, which was their first enemy, and they literally, well, wait a minute. Do they kill him? I know he
he died.
blows up. I know he
Yeah,
blows up, but is it one of those where he tries to throw the grenade and they hit it back, or did he throw?
I don't.
It's been a while.
I'm sure. I couldn't tell you, but
I
'cause I've
know they
never.
killed him. I know for a fact, and they killed a lot of the clan members too. So that was
Yeah.
bloody. They weren't the robots. They were slicing and dicing people.
Yes, it was a different book, but it was cool because it was just there's something about the art style,
Yeah.
the way it looks, the lettering, all of it that just makes it special. Like
Hmm.
I don't think in its time you would have thought that just by looking at it, like walking through a comic shop and picking it up with no understanding what this thing would turn into.
Hmm.
But yeah, some people will try to act like, oh, I loved it since it was a comic book. It's like the comic book wasn't like that accessible. I don't know what you guys are talking about. You were hard pressed to find a Turtles comic in a comic book shop, even unless it was a Archie Comics era Turtles book based off the cartoon and toys.
Hmm.
We're talking 90, 91, 92. The 80s stuff was not as everywhere as like a lot of comic book fans like made up memories seem to act like it was. It's like no, there weren't even that many shops, you guys. Like it was not as all over the place as you like to pretend it was.
Hmm.
It is. Everyone likes something the minute
Yeah. Well,
they think they
that's
can make up
interesting
stories about.
too. That you brought up the like the font style and stuff like that because that makes me think of weird enough. It makes me think of Garfield because I collected a lot of Garfield stuff. I read a lot of the Garfield comics, still like them.
Yeah, they're
And
great.
Garfield is unique in where Jim Davis created a certain font style, but
Hmm.
it's redrawn every time. So like the
Okay.
G is not going to be the same G in one panel as it would be in like the next strip, like for the next week and stuff like
Okay.
that. So I looked into that and that was really cool too. So it's like, he has the font style, but like each one is special and unique in its own way for that individual strip. So very like something like that is I think is really cool because it goes that they're really putting everything even into
Thought.
the lettering
Yeah.
into the
Well, yeah, you have to. So yeah, that is interesting because there are a lot of people that may not realize, how much thought has to go into every aspect of something when it comes to comics, even if it's just a strip in those rectangle like Garfield books. I mean, those were great. I used to read the hell out of those things because they were
I
just.
still have them all back home. The Fat Cat 3-pack, baby. You
They're
got
funny.
3 for 1928 or something like that. Oh, yeah.
I'd be in tears reading through some of those books sometimes when I was a kid. Used
I
to crack me
still
up.
I still to this day do my personal tradition for Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. I read the Garfield Halloween Adventure, Garfield's Thanksgiving, and Garfield's Christmas, and I watch them too.
That's awesome.
Good times, good times.
Yeah.
Mm. Just reminiscing about how awesome it was in the day, and now we have garbage like this. Just
No one's allowed to have fun.
I,
People can say what they want about the satanic panic people of the 80s. At least you could still have fun.
yeah, that was the big thing too. Because 19, man, I am so bad with dates because for me it feels like, oh, Harry Potter didn't come out that long ago, but like the first book came out in like 1999. It's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, because I actually remember having that read to us in elementary school in sixth grade or something like that. But yeah, I remember
Hey, I gotta check on.
my parents
Let
were
me
like,
check on my daughter real quick. I'll be right back,
yeah,
homie.
sure. My parents weren't worried about it because at the end of the day, good triumphs over evil. So That's the thing. So while Joe had to step away real quick, we'll go ahead and check out more of The Legend of Zelda. So the Legend of Zelda series launched in 86. So we're getting a little recap of where Zelda came from. Following years of speculation, Nintendo announced the Legend of Zelda movie last month. It will be co-financed by Nintendo and Sony Pictures Entertainment and co-produced by Nintendo and Arid Productions. Serving as producers are Shigeru Miyamoto, representative director and fellow of Nintendo, and veteran Hollywood producer Avi Arad, the former chief creator official of Marvel Entertainment. I guess that's really all this article kind of talked about. An interesting comment of saying it would be interesting to see a live action Miyazaki film. I don't know how you would really translate that, especially if you're trying to adapt Zelda, but then adapt the style of Miyazaki and then kind of combine them together. Because a Miyazaki, well, obviously you got to have the. I mean, I guess people have recreated the giant food. I guess you could make the giant Miyazaki food, but an interesting concept. I know people are skeptical of the Legend of Zelda movie, but at least Miyamoto's there with it, so obviously he would have a big part into making sure that no one does it dirty. Hopefully, we don't know. So Nintendo's obviously involved, and I think it's one of those things where it's like the live action Rurouni Kenshin, where it may be distributed on Netflix, but it's not being made by Netflix itself. Still can't believe the Colombian Pictures and Nintendo's are making a Zelda movie together. I love reading the comments too. Not a fan of his prior work, but I'm relieved the director's heart really seems to be in the right place. It's true, but then how much, I mean, is he saying that just to try to ease people out and actually will respect the storyline or no? Oh my gosh. Yeah, we'll be getting to Grand Theft Auto here shortly. I'm just looking through. Batman Arkham Knight is an unmitigated disaster on Switch, Digital Foundry says. Uh-oh. Don't care about Last of Us 2 Remastered. December's Playlist Plus Essential games are now available to claim. Let's check this out. I think I saw the list. And I think none of it I gave a crap about. All right. So the free games, what do we got? November PlayStation Plus game catalog titles includes Teardown, don't know what it is, Dragon's Dogma, Dark Horizon, Mobile Suit Gundam, Extreme versus Maxi Boost on, Dead Island, Riptide Definitive Edition, Superliminal, and Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. Last month edition were Grandia, Jet Motto, Up, Colonia, Fantasy Revere series, and Parippa the Rapper 2. Or Parappa the Rapper 2. I've heard Parappa. I thought Parappa was pretty good. Sonic Dream Team gameplay shows the Apple Arcade exclusive in action. Side Scroller Podcast was talking about this, and I didn't really catch the full dialogue of it, but they talked about on how pretty much Sonic, in terms of an iconic, when you think of Sega, who do you think of? You think of Sonic, but how is he still doing compared to Nintendo? Where you can make the argument that Mario, when you think of Nintendo, you think of Mario. And Mario is just blowing Sonic out of the water. Which is true, which is true. I think Sonic has really lost its charm. We got Figs says, good morning. What's up, man? What is up? We are talking pop culture. Joe had to step away real quick. Review Pokemon Horizons is the reinvention the Pokemon anime desperately needed. Is it now? I don't know. Scarlet and Violet. I still know the play Scarlet and Violet. We're slowly getting there. Is The Last of Us Part 2 remaster worth it? No, the game in general is not worth it. But I've already talked about that. All right. So why don't we go ahead? We'll move over to the next topic. And this is something I'm interested in because he was in an interview, and I guess they kind of shut the interview off because they asked him about his thoughts about Trump, and he started voicing his opinion about it, and then they're like, "Oh, we got enough." So we'll switch over to that.
All right, I'm back.
Welcome. Welcome back, you big silly.
Thank you.
We're moving over to this article over in Bounding into Comics, talking with Kelsey Grammer. As we know, Kelsey Grammer, well, if some of you may recall, way back in the day, there was the very first X-Men movie. You had that. Then you had X2. And then X-Men 3, The Last Stand. And I think it was only in X-Men 3 that Kelsey Grammer showed up as Beast. And recently, apparently, he had a little appearance in the Marvels. And Bounding in the Comics has pointed out that he was being interviewed with BBC4 reportedly, but then they shut it down by Paramount Plus as he voiced support for Donald Trump.
He's like one of those rare boomers that you're like, he's all right. Boomers drive me nuts, but he just kind of does what he does and says what he says and isn't too worried about the consequence at this point in life.
For some reason, I thought, like, I read somewhere that this had to do, and I didn't. Anyone new to the show, I simply look at the articles very quickly, but I don't read them. So I'm getting a fresh impression the first time, and I thought for some reason that because he played as Beast, because he made these comments, that he might not play as Beast anymore. But maybe I misread that wrong. But we will find out. Let's see. So Kelsey Grammer, best known for his role as Dr. Frasier Crane in Cheers and Frasier, has recently said that not only does he still support Donald Trump, but he will also be supporting the Republican candidate in the 2024 presidential election. And then there's a picture. The prolific actor's comments were made during an interview with BBC Radio 4's Today with Justin Webb, which quickly prompted a knee-jerk reaction from Paramount Plus's UK's public relation team, who reportedly shut down the interview as soon as Grammer mentioned Trump. Well, what? This is retarded.
I mean, I really don't think Paramount even cares that much. I don't know why their people would
understand, because I guarantee you that. Well, we'll read into it, but it sounds to me like the guy, like the interviewee, brought it up and he responded, and now they're like, "Oh, like shut up."
Yeah.
So, okay. So, oh my gosh, this is okay. So he's so this is an interview from BBC Radio that made Paramount Plus UK's public relations team assholes pucker, and then Yahoo News now is commenting on this. So there's a lot of people, a lot of reports all stemming from this. Yahoo News reports that Webb asked Grammer whether he was still supporting Trump. Yeah, you see, like, okay, I knew it. It's like, I'm guarantee you Kelsey didn't bring this up. The interviewee did, and now Paramount Plus UK is like, "Oh, my asshole's burning because he brought up Trump. Like, we need to shut this down immediately." To which the actor replied, "I am, and I'll let that be the end of it." Oh, okay. A reasonable response, I would say. The radio journalist would then go on to recall his experience during the interview with Grammer, declaring, I have to say, actually, Kelsey Grammer himself was perfectly happy to go on talking about it. The Paramount Plus PR people, less happy that he talked about it at some length. So they decided, wait, so he said, so we, and then switched it to, they decided we'd had plenty of time for our interview. Wow. What a bunch of pussies. But I should stress that he was perfectly happy to talk about why he supports Trump and still does in the forthcoming election.
To be like this weird about Donald Trump at this point in the game is just like, I said, to be like this uptight about Donald Trump at this point, like in life, like with the amount of years we've been going through this, just with his political side, it's like it's just cliche and silly now. It's like, you guys, this is like your 2000 and late. Like, just knock it off and move on. Like, the rest of the world has moved on. No matter what happens with Trump in the future, the rest of us have just realized that this is not the big deal you wish it was to everyone.
I think it's because of that power hunger they got from it when he was president.
I mean, they do, but it's gone now. Like, just no one cares.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Is it's gone, and they're trying to hold on to it as close as they can, because now they're trying to push the whole. If he wins the election, he has truly, democracy is truly destroyed. Which is funny because we were never a democracy to begin with. We were a constitutional republic. So, but we all know how the elitists and the weirdos love rewriting history to make it look like they're always the right ones. A staunch Republican, Grammer is one of the few actors in Hollywood who has openly made his political view public. In 2019, during an appearance on PBS's A Man, Poor and Company, the renowned actor was unsuccessfully baited into express disapproval for the 45th presidential halfway through his tenure. I was wondering whether you thought many people believe this sort of fabric is being disrupted. And Amanpour asked Grammer, prompting the actor to reply, well, I think fabric being disrupted is a good thing. All right, so I guess this is from this other interview, which I'm not so much interested about. Okay, and so then there's another one in 2012. Damn it, bounding into comics, like you're padding your articles about stuff. Like, I just want to know the specific one. So they're just bringing up past articles, which I guess you kind of have to do that. But always bounding into comics pad stuff like insanely. What was that?
I said bounding sucks just as bad as any other publication when it comes to some of these. I
love boundings just because.
But yeah, I don't hate them. It's just there are times too where it's like, can we get to the point? I understand I'm asking too much of the world, but
no, I know. I just think it's funny. That's why I always like return into bounding into comics, just because I always enjoy finding the misspellings and like this is their like title, and then you have a little bit of like what the title was telling you of the article, and then the rest just padded. I just think it's funny.
They could use an editorial crew for sure.
What's up?
They could use an editorial crew for sure.
I mean, at least Niche Gamer like doesn't really pad it too, because I've read articles where I'm like, oh, this article's title is interesting. Let's find out what it is about, and it's like a paragraph, and that's the end of the article. It's like, well, I wish there was more, but hey, at least you're not like filling it with fluff.
Yeah.
So Grammer's most recent work included a last-minute cameo in Marvel Studios and Disney's box office flop The Marvels, wherein the actor repressed his role of Beast from X-Men The Last Stand and the Fraser revival for Paramount Plus. Okay, I thought I saw somewhere that like because he made a comment in this recent article or interview that I thought I saw somewhere it was going to affect him playing as Beast, but I guess I was wrong. Oh, well.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me.
I liked Kelsey Grammer as Beast in the live action. Do you remember seeing Last Stand?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember it real well, but I do remember Kelsey Grammer's Beast. And I didn't mind him as Beast. but I think I'm more fine with him just voicing Beast and them like using less of his face
Mm,
as part. Like I don't need Kelsey Grammer's actual facial features to represent Beast, but
I get you.
that I'm not like 100% for or against it. It's fine. It's acceptable.
I get you. Yeah, I thought it was. A lot of people didn't like X-Men: The Last Stand. It could have been, obviously, it could have been better. Like the one thing I didn't get is why they made Juggernaut into like he actually was a mutant, even though like his powers from a crystal. I was like, why'd
Yeah.
you? I mean, I guess you had to get him in there somehow, and then luckily Deadpool kind of put Juggernaut back in there. I like the
I've
Juggernaut. I hear he gets shit on a lot in the comic, though.
I mean, he's a serious villain. People take him seriously, but
Mm-hmm.
I I personally don't like any of the X-Men movies a lot at all
Mm,
because none of them are really X-Men movies in my opinion.
mm-hmm.
But they're decent. They're okay. They're not the worst. They could be way worse than what they are. So I think the Phoenix one, I felt bad about that one because I heard like the guy that did it actually put a lot of work into making it accurate to Chris Claremont and John Byrne's run on
Mm-hmm.
X-Men, and the studio freaked out because of some other like hit film that was releasing the same weekend. So they're worried about the length and just chopped it all to hell.
Ugh.
And it basically just turned it into this confusing. It felt like there's certain movies where you can tell. The
Yeah.
Northman is a good example of it. Like they had to chop something like almost an hour's worth of story out of that movie. You can tell because there's scenes that just one thing's happening and now you're just over here and something else is happening with no context, no reason. It's like took this beautiful film and made it nonsensical.
Mm.
We left in a fight scene with a dead knight that was all just in his head, but we cut out like his wife and his pregnant wife getting killed and him being upset about it. Like it's just
Oh.
like, oh, she's alive. Then it just cuts to a scene of her dead on a volcano. It's like, but she was just alive on a boat. What? Like you can
Oh.
just tell, like just bad editing. And anyway, go on. I'm getting off track per
No,
usual.
that's all right. We always do, so it's always fun.
Yeah.
So, with Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbird, and Snakes complete, director Francis Lawrence says, my focus is on Constantine 2. Now, I loved the Constantine movie. I think it's pretty underrated, but I
Never seen it actually.
I think you might like it. I think it's cool. Of course, I enjoy the supernatural, element of like scriptural base and the different types of magic and stuff out there from different cultures and
Yeah.
stuff. Pretty cool. You got your demons, got your fallen angels, got your hybrids, got some sacrilegious texts. It's fun. And it's
Oh man,
Keanu Reeves.
I'm just gonna be triggered through the whole thing. Triggered.
Uh-oh.
You're gonna see me shaking and turning red the whole time.
No. Oh, bounding in the comics with their banner just staying put. Anyway,
Oh man, it's so obnoxious.
yeah, Niche Gamer has like a small like picture in a picture, like with like YouTube video playing around that I can't get rid of. That's also annoying. So be prepared for that. So in a post turn of fate from the sequel, roughly 18 years in the making. What's up, Loki? Now that his latest film, Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbird and Snakes, is finally complete and in theaters, Francis Lawrence says he's now turning all of his focus towards development of Constantine 2, which is amazing because I think when all of a sudden I got like on a Constantine kick, I actually played the Constantine uh, game not too long ago, and then I was like, man, I wish they would do a Constantine 2, and then boom, rumor was it that Constantine 2 was coming out. I wheeled it into existence. And I will continue
Yes.
to do so with many things. Didn't Ballad of Songbird and Snakes like do terrible? Because what's her face? Rachel Zegler or whatever. Is that the
I
one
mean,
where
I think it just flopped because there's no hype. I don't even think it
yeah.
was her. I think it's just Hunger Games is Like, it's just a property no one cares about right now. Not to say it couldn't have a resurgence later
I
or another
remember when it was
film.
a big thing back in the day.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was huge for a little bit. Like, I didn't get it, but
I didn't get it
it
either.
wasn't. It's like Harry Potter. It just wasn't for me. I was too old by the time it came out.
Loki says,
Power
I just
Rangers
watched
is the
John
same one.
Constantine from the first time yesterday. Dude, awesome movie. Portrayal of Lucifer, that guy was good. He was a gnarly Lucifer. Or
No,
Hal-El. It's actually Hal-El Ben Shakar, if we want to be superficial about it. Because Lucifer is a Latin term that was used to describe a Hebrew word, and it means brightness. But really, Hal-El is his name, probably his angel name. So there's a little fun for you. I'm actually doing
like,
I'm studying about who Lucifer is and Hal-El and stuff like that. So there you go, some fun facts for you. Lucifer's real, probably Hebrew name is Hal-El Ben Shakar, which means Hal-El, son of the morning.
Greg now has random objects floating behind him, and he doesn't know it.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, that's not good. Don't worry, I'm protected. I've already casted out anything that could have been in here.
And Satan's like, "Did somebody call me?" You're like, "No, I was just trying to explain some shit. Get out of here."
Nah, I didn't
Gee,
call him.
you demons and you Satan, you're just getting you're lacking originality at this point. Get with the program, devil.
Oh, you enjoyed it, Loki? Good. I think it's a good movie. I think Constantine's a good movie. But yeah, Lucifer. Yeah, the guy who did Lucifer is he is insane. Lucifer means light bearer, by the way. So
Like
there's another info. Like I said, I have been kind of researching it, so I'm looking at the Greek and all that stuff. So it is
it's all very interesting.
What's up?
I said it's all very interesting. It's like there's
Mm-hmm.
like even if you're a person that doesn't necessarily take the scripture seriously, and you look at it, there's like a cultural lore for certain people. Like, there's just an endless amount of fascinating material related to it. It's a rabbit hole that never ends.
Mm-hmm.
It's great because it always gives you something to learn and listen to and be entertained by, and maybe change your view of things in the process. I can't tell you how many times now I've seen dudes, whether they be on like Joe Rogan or other podcasts or shows, talking about how just going down the rabbit hole of Christianity turned them into a Christian. A Bible believing person, a guy that may not have cared about it even 6 months prior.
Yes.
We'll look into it, and that's all it takes. Just got to look
It's
into it.
crazy on how deep it goes too. And it just goes to show how serious it is to it answers a lot of questions that unfortunately I think a lot of churches and stuff fail to explain exactly what is happening and whatnot, because a lot of it, if you understand the reasons why, like beyond just your earthly understanding, then you can kind of see how everything is associated together. Like, for example, my friend Eric, he's talking about all the Nephilim tribes from the scripture. And, you'll have your critics out there who are like, well, Moses and Joshua, they all went and they slaughtered all these, men, women, and children and stole from them. It was disgusting. And it's like, well, if you actually read who the people were that they did that to, they weren't human. They were Nephilim tribes. They were supernatural. They were literal abominations because God didn't create them. The fallen angels did. So, that just sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. And it's the same thing when David went out on his military crusade, when God had him wiping out cities. These were cities, or if you look at the names of the cities, they were the last name of giant tribes. Some places had a little more leeway than others, depending on how infested they were. Mm-hmm. But if everything in the city was completely corrupted down to the genetics, I'm sorry, it's all gonna go. And
Yep, we hear
people
that
forget.
in Jude. The
Yeah,
angels shedded their oikaterion. The Greek word is oikaterion, and that's just not like their. It's called their dwelling place. So think of it as like their form, but it goes beyond that. It goes down to their very being, down to their genetic structure. So when they said they shedded it, they completely changed themselves from God to oppose God. That's why you shouldn't have any sympathy for fallen angels and demons and that stuff, because they willingly, to a genetic structure, to their very being, shedded their angel status and their love for God and
they're-
completely
yeah,
changed.
they're literally disgusting creatures.
Yep. They're
You know what I mean?
if
There
they were
aren't.
seraphins, they were called the shining ones because their eyes were shaped like snakes that you see like the Egyptians have on their walls, because the Egyptians worship those type of fallen angels. And the reason they were called the shining ones is that their eyes would glow, and they had elongated long skulls that they wore those hats for. That wasn't just for decoration. It hid their skull shaped.
That's what's so interesting about the other mythologies too. You know, whether it be Egyptian or Greek or Roman, is you
Hmm.
start to realize after enough Bible research that
Hmm.
it's not that any of them were wrong. They just did not realize they were giving deity level godhood to fallen angels, essentially. Because you
Hmm.
start to realize angels are the same critters that guys that lived well before them described. You know, it's or they straight up just have the same names. You know, they don't even bother changing them in some cases.
Yeah,
So
that's where, if you look at, that's why I believe that, really, like, for intents and purposes, the King James referred to Satan as Lucifer. Satan is actually a title for anyone who doesn't know. Satan just means the adversary, the accuser, and we see that in Job when God asks Satan, "Where have you been?" And he goes, "Oh, I've been walking to and fro," and he accuses Job. That's saying he only loves you because you gave him all this stuff. That's why he's known
yeah,
as the accuser. Um, but Hillel is probably his true name until he fell. And I say this because every angel name ends with an El. Gabriel, Michael, Azazel, they all end with El. And if you look
yep,
at the Hebrew wording, his name is spelled Heylel. And don't get it
yeah.
confused
For sure.
with
I've always been that way too. I don't think there's any angel that has a name that we may know of that doesn't end in L that's
mhm.
accurate. It's always a title or some descriptive adjective for them to that they kind of took on as a name after the fact. Like there's no angel name, yeah, that doesn't end in L. Not in
Yeah.
spirit
Well, I
scriptures and
I kind of I get where you're coming from, but I don't. That may not necessarily be the case, because Gabriel and Michael are actual names, like titles.
I meant more like the fallen ones.
Oh, the fallen
You
ones.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
Like so
I
many
was
of
getting
them
into
will
the
get
fact that
yeah.
there's where people try to not well, some people may purposely so, but I was also going to say that keep in mind that they also use, in describing the king of Babylon, Hellel as well, but that's Helel, and that's
Hmm.
attributed as to shine, to
Yeah.
it's a verb. It's to shine. It means to shine, to praise, to boast. While Hallel is actually a name, and that just comes from unfortunately mistranslations that I think people lose about too. That's kind of where also you get the inaccuracy of people also attributing Satan as the morning star. Jesus is the morning star. Satan might be part of that morning star order, but if when we learn that his name is actually Hallel, son of the morning, it's not the morning star. It's completely different.
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's your guys' scriptural lessons for today. Like that's part of, like, I've already, like, I have a 5-page thing already written up about just some of the stuff of who Hillel Ben Shakar is too. And I always try to based off of what Jesus said too, because we all know Jesus says, "I saw Satan fell like lightning from heaven." So from there, you can just go through. But we're not here to talk about old Lucy Head. We're here to talk about Constantine. There he is, right there. See. Lawrence confirmed his return to work on the long-awaited film while giving a November 21st post-game interview regarding the aforementioned Hunger Games prequel to The Hollywood Reporter's Brian Davids. Following a lengthy discussion regarding his work in Panem, the director was eventually asked by Davids if the recent Warner Brothers Discovery merger and subsequent DC Studios shakeup had ever at any time left him fearful that his plan to revisit Keanu Reeves' interpretation of the eponymous Hellblazer were once again meant for the grave, to which he affirmed, "No, but we've had many obstacles. Me, Keanu, and writer Akiva have tried over the years to wrangle some control of the character again because it had been handed over," recalled Lawrence. I think NBC. Yeah, I remember watching the NBC TV show. And then J.J. Abrams, oh God, was going to try and do something. Ugh, that's not good. And then the regime at DC changed and they've got their plans. But luckily, we managed to wrangle some control and started working out some ideas for Constantine 2, which we're really excited about. Nice. Yeah, I remember watching the NBC television show of Constantine. And then someone was telling me that, like, season 5 or something, it switched directing hands because some of Constantine's character, like what he's known for, like he drinks and smokes a lot. The original NBC's, the guy who played Constantine, never did that. And then someone was telling me once the directors or the studio changed, they gave those characteristic traits back to him in the television series.
They're kind of key to his character in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a whole storyline that's based around the fact that, you know, he sells his soul to the devil to avoid lung cancer because he cannot stop smoking. Like, that's such an overarching, like, ironic point to the comics. And I don't even know that much about the comics because I hate Vertigo books and I never read Constantine into great detail. You know, I knew the basics, but
well, that's actually kind of what the first movie's based on. It has that smoking element, and well, are you ever gonna watch it or no?
I might, you know, if I get time to. It's like the only thing I make time to watch is football, and that's because it's only for X amount of weeks once a year.
Well, that element you just described, you gave to, is in the movie. I will give you that.
Okay. All right.
I'll just leave it at that.
Cool.
So it's still the very beginning as the strike put it on hold for a little bit. Oh, poor strike. He then detailed the film's progress. So we're probably gonna start getting back together after Thanksgiving and did back into try and crack it. Unfortunately for fans eager to revisit Lawrence's interpretation of the chain-smoking mage, outside of his existence and the involvement of its original creative trio, as of writing details regarding Constantine 2 remain extremely scarce. Yeah, that was another thing that interesting about Constantine is that I kind of see Constantine, even though he dabbles more into the supernatural and knows magic and that sort of stuff, I kind of still give him the Punisher viewpoint of he's not really a hero, as in he has supernatural powers or superpowers. Definitely Punisher, but like his power involves him having an insane pain tolerance. Or I think someone tried to read his mind once and he was able to shake it out of it because he just had that much determination and mental fortitude to rid it, to get him out of her, to get her out of his head and something like that. I kind of seen like that with Constantine too, even though they kind of changed it to where he now, I thought I remember seeing somewhere he has like demon blood and stuff. So now he actually has supernatural powers or something like that. But really his power is cunning and luck. Like he rolls nat 20 on luck every time. And that's kind of like what you get from Constantine. Yeah,
he's not trying to be a hero.
Yeah. he's a loner too, because a lot of his people die, his friends die,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he dabbles with the demons, and they ain't happy. They hate him. Providing the first real update of the film's direction since its 2020 development confirmation just last month to the Pro Bible's post-credit podcast, Lawrence detailed these kinds of dark DC characters, Vertigo characters have bounced around, and we've tried to get in control. We finally have, and Keanu I and Akiva Goldsman, who did the movie together originally, are batting around ideas, but we got sort of halted by the strike. However, we are actively coming up with ideas to create a part 2, and it will be very rated R. Nice. That's what I want to hear. Because
It's
honestly, you
kind of
can't do it.
gotta be, you
What's
know.
up?
I said it almost has to be. Like,
Yeah,
how
I was
can
just
you?
gonna say, like, you can't do a PG-13. That's what reminds me of when everyone was scared that Marvel was. They were worried Marvel was gonna make Deadpool 3 PG-13, and it's like, well, there goes Deadpool. You
Yeah.
can't do it. Met by the assertions from the outlet that, thanks to the character being one of the few to actually age in the comics, the length of time between both Constantine films would be less jarring to audiences compared to most other superhero properties. The director then revealed that John's aging would, in fact, play a role in the sequel's narrative. Ooh, I didn't know about that. That's cool. Without spilling too much, I would say yes. My instinct is, as of now, the idea we have is that we would not be pretending that this is, what happens 2 weeks after the last Constantine, but that this is an older version of John Constantine. Nice.
It's
Oh,
cool.
that was the end of the article. But dude, that's dope. Why he's wearing a pink tie, I have no clue, but I have heard that they kind of done him dirty, depending on what version of DC you want to talk about. But that's cool, yeah.
Basically, any character that's owned by Warner Brothers or Disney at this point has the potential to be done dirty, or even if they haven't, from like some, like, oh, this is woke perspective. A lot of times they get done dirty just because they're like, they take an original,
Hmm.
interesting character or story and they try to make it for the masses instead of just accepting that this is fine for the masses already. Like, it's not that hard to wrap the brain around, or that strange, or that weird. Like, people like a little variety occasionally. Like, there's, if I just know if this attitude would have existed in the 80s, we would
Hmm.
have had no films, no classic films from the 80s whatsoever. And I know the 80s isn't even like prime film time. It was just good for pop culture films, you know.
Yeah.
If we're talking high quality movies that are risky or edgy or something, it's all 70s and 90s basically. Like,
Hmm.
outside of those realms there isn't a whole lot.
Yeah, and Constantine, like, I know one of the elements they would bust a nut over, but like it doesn't really matter per se, is that he slept around with both men and women. So, you know, that that element isn't really jarring because that was kind of already established long ago, and that, well, at least where I'm at in the comics, it doesn't really play a factor in it because it's like, who cares? Like, I'm busy fighting demons. So I'll do
Yeah.
whatever I have to do to get my knowledge or get whatever I need to stop this person or this entity, I guess I should say. All right. Well, I need to get refill my drink here. So why don't you go ahead, Joe, and hold the chat for just a second. Go ahead and
Sure.
plug death, death, death. I'll bring it up here real quick. And then once I refill my drink, we'll get into that. Get into the old Nightcrawler thing that's happening because I'm sure you're itching
Oh,
to talk about that.
oh, yeah,
He's
let's talk
choking
about
on his
old
cigarette. He's so
Nightcrawler.
excited.
I'm gagging on cigarette smoke just thinking about it.
All right, folks. But we have Death, Death, Death here. And my friend Joel here is the creator of Death, Death, Death. It's on Indiegogo. You can find both Death, Death, Death and Swarm in the descriptions. If you enjoy, your superhero elements, check out Swarm. I think is Swarm more mechanical, right?
I mean, he's like a mutant, I guess you
Oh,
could
he's a
say.
mutant. Okay.
You know, he's like a mutant with gadgets.
Okay. Well, if you want your superhero mutant with gadgets, check out Swarm. Or if you want more of your berserker Evangelion uh, type humanoid creatures and a sci-fi fantasy about family units, survival, and war, you might want to check out Death, Death, Death. And Joe will give you a little insight of what it's all about. Take it away, Joe. I'll be right back.
All right, brother. Yeah, Death. This is my first complete solo book. I've been working in comic books for the last I don't know, about 20 years, somewhere in that realm, give or take. And I've always just done work for everyone else in terms of being a artist. And this is my first big shot out of something that I control every aspect of. It's a like you said, it's a little bit of Berserk, Transformers. I'd say you can throw some Bible lore in there as well. But I really enjoy um, Big Mech and Bible lore, especially being a Christian. I love that kind of stuff. And this is kind of like my, I'd say like my love story to all the stuff I grew up on. It's about a these giant creatures that are on this moon outside of Saturn, and they eventually get pulled into a war from some colonizers, and they end up being at war with another planet. So that's what the bulk of the story comes down to. It's this family caught in the center of this war, and the father or the husband character being one of the characters drafted basically into it, and he is put through a program as many other creatures like him are, where they are mechanized. You know, they're organic mech. So um, basically, it's giant creatures versus giant creatures, but the human scale ones need something to counteract who they're going to war with. And being that everything around them's big, you know, they have to make some kind of mechanized something to fight back that's not as slow as a piloted mech. So it's kind of their approach to it, is to just take these creatures on this planet that they kidnap more or less and force them into military service. So, but you know, you get a lot of subtext on different topics in it, whether it be the idea of the family unit and sticking together, and the cohesiveness of homogeneous societies in some cases, and then you know, not so much in others when it's a more savage um, nature-based monster character rather than like a, you know, a human type character. So you get a little taste of some adult topics, and I don't mean adult like pervy, just adult like things that might cross your mind as a grown person, mixed mixed into a world that is a Bible-esque fantasy world where you're seeing this war play out and take place. So yeah, if any of that interests you, if you like that kind of stuff, go ahead and check out the campaign, look over some of the artwork and whatnot. It's a 300 plus page comic book. It's a graphic novel, I guess you could say. But I have the 7x10 hardback versions of color and line art, and the line art's lettered and all that too. It's just, you know, the artwork's not colored. Um, then we have the manga version, which is all grayscale. It will read like an American comic though. It won't read backwards like a manga. But yeah, that's up there too, and that's kind of like our value option. $18 for 300 plus pages of content, so not shabby. Plus shipping, but you know, if you live in the U.S., the shipping's really not that bad. I think I have it set at like $8 to $10, something like that. It can vary depending on which tier, because if you buy more, I shave off a little bit on shipping, even though I'm eating that cost. It's just a way of showing I appreciate people buying bigger packages or perks that come with more books or extras and things like that.
Good job, fag.
Thanks, man. That's that's the same thing my mom said to me this morning. She said, "You're so handsome. Good job, fag." I said, "Oh, thank
Mothers, they're the best. But yeah,
you."
we got just scrolling down, showing you guys all the insane detail that Joe puts into his work. Very, very good. Yeah, I picked up the colored version just because after a while, I originally got the manga because I like manga, and I was like, dude, the color versions just look amazing. So gotta see it.
Little side note, because we were talking about the genetics and the angels and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on a chapter of the book and trying to get like some dialogue and different things worked out in
Uh-huh.
a manner that made me happy. And I have this. Hang on, I'm drawing a blank. I have this whole section where the humanoid type characters, the Atlanteans, they really want like that ability to play with genetics. And the number one rule of their society outside of worshiping God is you're not allowed to play with genetics, because that was the last thing they were told when they were saved. When God had mercy on them, was don't repeat the sins of your fathers, because these were flood victims. These were throwaways from Noah's flood that saw what happened when
Mm-hmm.
genetics were played with. But as time progresses, just like in a lot of societies, they want to start breaking the rules. They're not supposed to be. They want to repeat problems that they know from the past are just going to turn out bad for them. And I was so proud of myself to have worked it in good all over again. I was like, bam! Oh, I got it in there just
There you
right.
go.
But there's this one scientist character that's always like, but my life would be so much easier if you would just let me mess with the genetics of these creatures. And everyone's like, no, we told you no. Like, it's stop putting in requests. It ain't gonna happen. The government's never gonna okay this, and we'll
Oh
see if
yeah.
he does. If he does, maybe he doesn't. We'll see what level of chicanery science is willing to go to, even in the world
Ooh.
of death.
Yeah. A
I,
lot of yeah, a lot of knowledge was passed on through fallen angels to humans. Mostly, you got your Cain from Cain and Abel. Um, if you want to go down the Freemasonry route, they're proud of their bloodlines being tracked back to Cain, Tubal Cain, Cain, and all that stuff, who inherited that they believe they inherited knowledge from Adam, who got his knowledge from God to work the garden. Because a lot of people downplay and don't really understand that the Garden of Eden was the size of like a continent. If you read exactly what the Bible talks about, it's a big area. It's not like a little garden that we're thinking of. It's a big garden, and God had to have shared his knowledge on how to cultivate it and keep it up and stuff like that to Adam. So that's what
in my opinion,
the
in my
Freemasons
personal
believe.
opinion,
Hmm.
the garden was like literally like all of Mesopotamia. Like, I know
Well, it
everyone
says
may
it's
not believe
like
that, but
from the Euphrates River, I think, stretched. It
like
gives a
bare minimum,
detailed
like
it gives a detailed description of kind of like what you can put together on how big the garden is. Um, and I don't want to push the I would want to look at the scripture again to make sure before I say anything is concrete, but I do know that the garden is not the size that a lot of people may think of the garden when they see like representations or like little cartoons of what the garden was like. It was a big, big place. That's the point I'm
I
trying to
feel like
get across at.
it could have easily been all of the Middle East, bare
Mhm.
minimum. You know what I mean? Like, every place
Mm.
that's a desert now,
Yep.
I think essentially could have easily been a portion of the garden at one time before it became what it was. Give
Yep.
me one sec, brother. I'll be right back.
That is all right. But yeah, guys, check out Death. Uh, looks great. I can't wait for it to finally get finished. All right. So we've been holding off for the main topics here, but we're here. We've made it. We'll get into what we're talking about. And first thing we'll talk about is the big fiasco going on with Nightcrawler's origin, Mystique and Destiny apparently scissoring and making a making Nightcrawler. And boy, Twitter just exploded upon this one because tons of people going crazy over it.
All right. Apologies.
Oh, don't worry. You're just in time to look over this article about Nightcrawler and Mystique and Destiny.
Oh my God. All right, let's
we'll dive into this. Crack your necks.
Yeah, let's prepare ourselves for the stupidity they're going to throw at us to explain this nonsense away.
Okay, so like I said earlier on, I did a little snooping really quickly about what exactly it all entails. So from what I've read is that this was a concept that they wanted to have for a while, and someone said, no, we're not doing that. So it was at least an idea, but they said no. And this is Nightcrawler having, mother and father being Mystique and Destiny, which doesn't make sense based on what I've read other people talking about how Mystique's powers work, because she is a shapeshifter. And people tried to make the argument. Loki says, I enjoy the news podcast. Good. We've been doing this for a while. This is something that I need to get more on doing, and trying to get more guests on the show or doing solo shows. So it's just me and my anxiety and stuff. I need to overcome that and start trying to do this more often. But anyway, so from what I've gathered, some people try to explain that this is possible, is that Mystique can shapeshift into a dude, and apparently the penis functions. But then I have other people say that's impossible. One, she's a shapeshifter by appearance and appearance alone. That means that in order for this to actually only takes place, like, she not only shapeshifts appearance wise, but down to a genetic structure, which is, from what I was reading, was the whole point, and that was the detail to make sure she was not OP. Because if you take away that detail and said she can now transform to a genetic level, then she can be the most powerful being in the universe and transform everybody.
Exactly.
So I agree with what I read about what that guy informed. So I want to see, let's just go ahead and take a look in here and see what Bounding in the Comics have dug up. That's from my own research. Obviously, Joe, if you know anything, feel free to let me know a little bit about that. But that's what I got out of it, and that's kind of why I came to the conclusion that this is fucking stupid. Because, yeah, if her powers is simply to shapeshift by appearance alone and can't make any, like, that's it, then
it's always been appearance alone. This is just people trying to squeeze their degeneracy into something that was never intended for it.
And isn't that the reason? And isn't that the reason why she uses, like, firearms and knows martial arts and stuff? Because she can't do the powers, right? Isn't it? It's literally just appearance, isn't it?
Yeah, basically just equate her to a really good spy. She can take on the voice. She can look right. But she always has giveaway aspects that make her kind of get snuffed out. You know, it's like even Wolverine knows it's her just by smell. She's still producing. She's still a woman inside, no matter what she morphs the outside to look like temporary. She can take on clothing. Does that mean she's partially genetically just clothing? You know, it's that's the whole thing. It doesn't. I know these are fictional characters, but they are trying to add something to her that was never there, and they're doing it for generic reasons to irritate people. There's no good faith anywhere in this. This has nothing to do even with trying to appease or make mentally ill people feel better about their mental problems. This is just to irritate comic book fans, and then to wean pretend shock when everyone says this is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
Because
and it's
there's another person that does this, Morph. Morph does the
well more
exact same thing, doesn't he? He can't make guns though, if I'm not mistaken. Like he can't morph into a person that has a weapon.
the catch. What Morph is Morph was like simply a creation of the cartoon series. So
Yeah,
we
he was
don't
a
really have
throwaway
a lot of
character.
context on Morph like outside of that.
Mhm.
Except, like in future stories. They worked him into the comics eventually, obviously.
Well, I
But
knew about Morph that he was a throwaway character just for the pilot.
yeah. So I don't even put Morph into like X-Men lore, honestly, because
Oh.
he's not important enough to even compare to Mystique. I would say if you're gonna take one shapeshifter from the X universe, because I'm sure there's more than one in that mix. She's the top. She's the
Mhm.
one everyone likes the best. She's cool because the blue skin is interesting. The look of her is interesting. And I'll even say this: I don't even necessarily like Nightcrawler's original origin story. I'm not a big fan of any character that's created by demons that's trying to be spun as a good guy now. But at least they had him being spun as a good guy through becoming a Christian. Like that's the part that made it make sense. Was
Oh,
like
careful,
even if you're
Catholic.
birthed, oh my mistake. Even if you're
Catholic.
birthed from pure evil, Jesus will accept you. Like as long as you're trying and you're accepting Him first and foremost, obviously. Um, so it is like that's what made Nightcrawler sort of interesting. And I mean, they even and brought up the religious aspect in the '90s cartoon, and it was
Mhm.
surprising how much of a good light was put on it. Because even then, we're well past the point of anyone involved in entertainment trying to not irritate Christians. It was already happening then. It was just in a different way. Instead of trying to shove like chicks with dicks, on you all the time, they would just always present a Christian as some truck driving hillbilly with a stained up t-shirt chasing blacks around. You know what I mean? Like it was more of like, let's just present them as this like caricature that doesn't exist in the first place.
Well, I think we've gotten an idea what it is. So let's see what this article has to talk about too. That was another thing too. We kind of talked about it earlier. Was one of the flack I got when I made a tweet or a post of just simply going, I'm not surprised they're trying to do this. I hate Christians. And one of them was like, oh, you do know Nightcrawler's Catholic, right? It's like you do know where the origin of Catholicism and every other denomination comes from, right? You
Well,
do
and
know that, right?
what kind of like I'm 22 and new to the internet type comment is that? You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I know all about Catholics. I know all about all kinds of Bible stuff. Why would you even bother making such an irrelevant comment? This is a side note. I'll be quick on this because I don't want to get carried away with it, but it's in the
You know
similar
me, I
vein.
love Salty Joe.
Yeah. Well, not too long ago, I'd say like a few days ago maybe, and I just mute people that I don't want to see stuff from because I'm not interested in like going block crazy. Like I only block a select
Yeah.
minority, ultra minority of just one or two people that are super obnoxious.
Hmm.
But some random guy that he had like a I'm trying to remember the screen name. I want to say it was like Hero Squadron, something like that, something that made you think of X-Wing Squadron, and I think it was even like a play on Star Wars
Hmm.
terminology. But he retweeted my campaign, and he didn't have any context to the pages that were shown, and you could tell. And that's on me because they are things I cannot spoil, but they're there to pull you in. And
Hmm.
he said this kind of gore, death, and degeneracy is exactly what's wrong with comic books. This guy, basically saying I'm the problem. I'm
And
putting
yet
me on the same
Berserker is
level.
one of the most well-known selling manga of all time.
Well, why would you put something on the level of these people trying to have chicks with dicks birthing babies out their butts and all kinds of God knows what? When the tale I'm telling, here's the thing. Yes, there's some imagery in my book that's supposed to be shocking, and
Hmm.
it's not necessarily supposed to be shocking, but it's like the reality of the situation. And I do cover a lot, like I do use a lot of smart art to cover graphic things in a way where it's not as graphic, but you understand what's happening still. Because I'm not trying to like gross people out here,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there you got three images that I had posted. One was a page where you see the father character just riddled with arrows, and you don't realize maybe from the outside looking in that that's not gratuitous gore. He's trying to save his family, and he's getting killed for it. He's literally just uh, uh, dying trying to protect his wife and kid. Like it's a dramatic situation. It's not senseless gore. And then there's another image where there's kind of like a half alien looking baby thing floating with king blood. You
Mhm.
don't you got to realize like the other image right beside it is General Nova. That's just him when he was a baby. That's all you're seeing there. So he lives. I'm not drawing. I'm not making dead babies and guys with gore coming out of them. I'm giving you dramatic characters with intense backstories so that you understand why some of them are the way they are. And we don't. It's just frustrating
Mhm.
when you're part of the solution against exactly what we're looking at here on bounding into comics, and it's just like the person with their like cheesy comment about, oh, Catholics aren't Christian. It's like me making a comic book that's about as Christian as it gets, and this guy here, Greg, saying Catholic or saying Christian, and someone trying to define the difference as if there's some mega difference between your average Catholic and your average non-Catholic Christian. It's also silly. It's like I expect it. I don't get like super uptight about it because it's the internet. I basically move on with my life pretty quickly because we're busy, we're adults.
Yeah.
But it's strange. There
I
are
think it's
so many
hilarious.
lose situations. I mean, it is funny sometimes if you think about it like in that
No, it's
manner where you
funny,
don't
but it
take
gets
it too
tiring after a
seriously.
while. I understand
Yeah.
completely. It's just my the most humorous thing about that the person that tried to pull that on you and like all the comments that reply to my tweet uh is they really don't know what the hell they're talking about, because some of the other comments from my comment, they were trying to declare it's like you don't know the fact that you're saying this shows that you don't know the scripture at all, and you don't know, and I'm just like, dude, guarantee you I
Hmm.
could wipe the floor about what the scripture actually says, because if you knew anything, you would understand that Jesus, while he hung out with sinners and all the people that were looked down upon in the world, what did he always tell them to do? Repent, repent,
Yeah.
repent, repent. Because everybody, he was trying to warn people that all, like, you guys may be the lowest of the low, but everyone where you guys are at right now are damnable for wrath by God. And I'm here to give you, and I'm here to teach you how to avoid that. Now, obviously, his plan was not to just come out and say, I'm going to die for your sins, sort of things, but he had his mission to do. And these people don't understand that at all. They just think, well, you hung out with people, so therefore those people are right. It's like
It's
no,
too. It's the
they were
unacceptance that
still stuck in their sin, and he was trying to tell them that it's not just the outside, it's the inside that you need to clean as well. That's why he got on the Pharisees, the Socrates, and all the people who knew the scripture, because he pointed out to them and he said, "You of guys of all people should know, because you actually are in the word and should know what you guys are doing is not the way of God's teaching." Because a little info for people out there, the reason why the Pharisees and stuff got a bunch of heat on them is they were once again falling into the outward appearance of saying, I'm right with God, I'm clean, I'm pure. Jesus could see inside their hearts. That was one of his supernatural abilities, and he could actually read their thoughts. Not only were they that, they were the worst people as well, because inside they were disgusting. They weren't
Yeah.
living. And they were once again reinserting their own corrupt traditions that were probably likely passed down through generation from fallen angels, and were once again twisting everything into doing it.
Well, we're all sinners. We all suck. We're all terrible.
Mm-hmm.
No
Yeah.
matter how good we are, this is something we can't run from and we cannot change. And it's frustrating. And you know the people that can acknowledge it and have some humility about themselves because it frustrates them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the ultimate acknowledgement, is when you're trying so hard to be good, even if it's not for Christian reasons, just out of moral obligation. Say you don't know much about Jesus or about Christianity, but you still have the soul that God gave you is still very much intact and hasn't been totally been chipped and whittled away by the world. It's we all need it, and none of us are immune from the pitfalls of the world, and none of us are. You know, it's one of those things where, like, there are times where I get it. I'll even think to myself, like, I don't want to be like, I had someone throw at me because I didn't like the situation in my town once about the amount of like homeless junkies that were just being dumped off here from bigger cities outside of the area. And
Mm-hmm.
someone tried to give me the Jesus treatment about it, like, well, Jesus sat with prostitutes and all this. I'm like, yeah, but Jesus didn't have uh, meth and heroin addicts hanging out in the kids section of the library, passing out, shooting up locally because they know they can go because our library is huge. You know, I'm not talking about people that are just lost. I'm talking about people that are literally playing with stuff that if a child gets a hold of it, a little bit of it will kill them because their tiny little systems are not built for, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's no context sometimes. So even when I'm trying to
Yeah.
not
Well,
be
even
heartless, people don't
even
understand. It's like, look, I'm not being heartless. It's just Jesus would expect me to worry about my own fucking kids first than some junkie shooting up in the library that I don't want in my
and
fucking town.
and also Jesus didn't let the he didn't encourage the behavior.
Exactly.
That was
He
the
didn't
other
say it
that
was
was the other
okay.
thing
Yeah.
too. Like, and that was kind of the whole point of, you know, what I was getting at is the harsh reality of when you read the scripture. Jesus talked more about hell than he did about heaven. That is the reality, because he could see what was going to happen and he was trying to warn people, guys, the point is that none of you can justify yourselves when you stand before the Lord to appease his wrath. The Bible even talks about how any sort of uh any sort of thing that you want to present to the Lord to say, here you go, this is my work, it should be good enough for you. God sees that as you giving him used rags, which meant used menstrual rags, or the rags from the people with leprosy, that disgusting blood filled. That is what God sees when you try to present to him all your good deeds and stuff like that. Jesus was warning people, it's not going to be enough. I am the only way that will satisfy God's wrath when when I do everything.
Yeah,
That's how.
good deeds were basically flushed down the toilet in
Yeah.
the by time the New Testament. And it's not that we aren't expected to be good people still. That is part of being a Christian. But if you haven't truly and honestly
The point
and
being,
believe that Jesus was real and you accepted him, then it makes all that no good. You know, God's not going to look upon that well. And we have enough scripture to back that up, that there's like step one, you got to understand and get into Jesus. If you can't get to that step, and everything else is just a deed, while that's nice, it's not going to bail you out, I guess you could say.
the point being is that anyone who tries to water down the scriptures into a feel good movement and that you're
Yeah.
covered because you got your get out of jail free card is incorrect. That's not what the scripture
Yeah.
says. The scripture says to be sin conscious and repent. That is the truth.
Yeah.
And anyway, how does all this relate to Nightcrawler? Who knows? But we will continue. It's just us trying to avoid reading this article because we are just don't want to hear about what they do. But in any case, let's do this. One BAMF forward, several dozen BAMFs back, replacing one questionable editorial decision with another. Marvel Comics has finally retconned Nightcrawler's widely panned Mutants Are Demons backstory by revealing that rather than Mystique and Azazel, you actually can find that guy in the Book of Enoch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
The furry blue teleporter is actually the biological son of the blue shapeshifter and her lesbian lover, Destiny. Oh boy. Why does this guy look like Spider-Man?
It's probably some variation. Who knows? We've entered into Pornhub has absolutely degenerated everybody and everything. Oh man, too much porno in people's lives.
Buckle up, readers, as it's time to take a ride through the tangled history of the X-Men's resident swashbuckler, beginning with a stop in the franchise's heyday of the 1980s. So during his famous run on the team, writer Chris Claremont, I think it was Claremont, that like they pitched this idea and this guy's like, no, consistently teased a familial connection between the two respected mutants, primarily due to their shared blue skin and fully yellowed eyes. There's it. Notably, at no point during his run did Claremont ever directly address the topic of Nightcrawler's parental heritage, though according to artist John Byrne, who served as... What's up?
Burn, like B-U-R-N. That's like how it's pronounced.
He's just fancy and throws a Y in there instead. Okay.
He's like one of those people where he was born in America, but then grew up in Britain for a little while as a young child and then lived in Canada. So he's just got weird everything around. But he sounds American if you listen to him.
Okay. Byrne, who served as the illustrator on many of the writer's stories, it was at certain points respectively intended to be Nightmare than Destiny. At one point, Chris wanted to reveal that Kurt's father was Nightmare, said Byrne, while speaking to fans on his Byrne Robotics forum. Roger Stern, as editor, put the kibosh on that one. So as explained by Stern in a 2009 interview, I put a stop to the Nightmare connection before I became the X-Men editor. It happened when I was the writer of Doctor Strange, back when writers were still occasionally listened to. Chris had come up with the latest of several crazy ideas and declared that Nightcrawler's father was Nightmare. Gosh, there's a lot of nights. And I replied with something like, no, he's not. I'm not going to let you appropriate one of my character's major villains. As I recall, Len Wein across the room and shook my hand. Okay. But eventually, said Byrne, Chris decided Kurt's mother was Destiny and his father was Mystique. Unfortunately for Claremont, so Claremont wanted to do it. All right, so unfortunately for Claremont, thanks to Stern's editorial oversight, again, speaking to Callahan. Got that right, Callahan? Stern noted that no plan ever existed to reveal Nightcrawler's parentage, as it, quote, simply wasn't that important to us then. This concept was never canonized and instead left on the cutting room floor. Okay, so I got that reversed a little bit. So it was Claremont that was trying to push the Destiny Mystique stuff.
And Len Wein, he's the original creator of Nightcrawler.
Okay.
So
that's why you're here, Joe, because I get confused. I'm confused.
Well, Len Wein, he's an excellent writer creator. He wasn't an artist or anything, but he came up with a lot of the X-Men that we know of that were not like the old school ones from the 60s where they all had on like the same yellow and blue suits. And it was basically just Beast, Jean Grey. So, like, Beast didn't even have hair. He just looked like a big dude with no shoes on. Len Wein was responsible for taking a concept that was decent, but had never really done super duper well, and rebranding, putting it out in the early 70s as the X-Men we kind of all recognize now. And the looks we recognize, the costumes we recognize, the characters. So he kind of brought him to the forefront again, but Chris Claremont and John Byrne were so red hot that he eventually kind of, even though he saved X-Men from being just a dead property, because it was literally on the verge of that's what it was going to be, This was like he was like the guy that saved it from just being a cutting room floor thing essentially, because it never really
Okay.
did that good in its time until he came in and made it cool. Now we
Okay.
look upon all of it fondly, but Chris Claremont and John Byrne really kind of took it away from him, but not intentionally. It's like that's just
Gotcha.
the direction because of their success as well. So Lynn Wein, a lot of these guys have like weird frustration with each other because comic book people are extremely petty and awful, and that's coming from a comic book person. They're
Yeah.
almost all fucking terrible except for a small minority. And even though I love John Byrne, like he is my all-time favorite writer, creator, artist, anything. Like I love John Byrne. Um,
Hmm.
I really wish Lynn Wein would have got a little more say in some things because he really was a great creator. But yeah, Byrne and Claremont are like the all-time X-Men creators. So and if they do try to pitch this as like Claremont and Byrne would want to do some weird lesbian thing, um, I can almost guarantee that's an exaggeration. There's no way because Byrne's even hated because he's old school. You know, he will not
All we can
jump on
do
weird bandwagons,
is
you know.
advance the article. Maybe the
Oh
article.
no, never advance the article. We can't do that. Not on this show. Gosh
Not on
darn
this
it.
show.
Go
We're not
ahead,
even at the
Dobbs.
main one of talking about Grand Theft Auto. That's all right. So, then after nearly a decade of teasing regarding the relationship, 94's X-Men Unlimited Volume 1, number 4, saw author Scott Lobdell build upon his predecessor's connective tissues and finally confirm that Mystique was, in fact, the biological mother of one Kurt Wagner. Further, at the time, his father was established as one Baron Christian Wagner, a German nobleman whom Mystique had married in order to take personal advantage of his social influence and immense wealth. Sounds just like a leftist. I don't know if that's true. I just threw that in there. And for the next 10 years, thus would remain the Circus Elf's family tree. And there he is, little baby Nightcrawler. Then came Chuck Austin, one of the most notorious X-Men writers of all time and a very noted critic of religion in all forms. When Austin took over Marvel's Merry Band of Mutants, one of his main goals, ostensibly inspired by Nightcrawler's noted Catholicism, was to subvert the concepts of, quote, angels and demons by revealing that rather than being of divine origin, these beings were nothing more than a species of proto-mutants. This, of
Oh
course,
my god.
oh my God, this included, of course, Satan, who, who according to Austin's retconning, was not a fallen angel, but rather an ancient red-skinned proto-mutant teleporter known as Azazel, even though Azazel is a fallen angel. Why did you use that name then, you weirdo?
They were all like big inspired by Kirby, Jack Kirby,
Mm-hmm.
who was responsible for a lot of the early X-Men books. And Jack Kirby was he was Jewish, so he
Mm-hmm.
used a lot of Jew lore. And
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that sarcastically. I mean, like, you know, they have extra text that they use sometimes to go
Yeah,
along with
they
the Old
do.
Testament, which
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. It's interesting. I'm not big on the Kabbalah stuff, but outside of that, you know, it's interesting. And that's where he got a lot of inspiration from. So that's why there's so many like angel names and stuff like that in the old origin stuff, because so many of these guys, that was
Yeah.
just what they had to work with, was what's our mythology? Biblical. So that's just where they drew everything from, Christian or Jewish.
Well, that's what, yeah, polytheism does that too. Because they're,
So
I
you'll
mean,
see a lot of it pop up. Yeah, so
Azazel's like
Kirby
a
was so
different
much of
name
it.
out there. I can't remember what, but anyway. Oh, this fat guy got shot. That sucks.
Oh
Where's
no,
Kurt?
not the fat guy.
Oh wait, that's Kurt apparently. Kurt, move, Professor. Blah, 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 blah. Ah. Oh, he couldn't move enough because he was big. Maybe, I don't know. At one point in history, seeking. Oh my gosh, I found the bounding into comics grammar issue. They have seeking twice. At one point in history, seeking to sire children with Earth women in order to allow him a stronger connection to the mortal plane from his home in the Brimstone dimension, straight up Genesis 6, and spiraling, it's a long story. Azazel's machinations eventually led him to make the acquaintance of Baron Wagner and Mystique, who at the time of their meeting were reeling from the recent discovery that Baron could not sire any children. Oh, poor Baron. So he was the Baron one. Oh,
But yeah, that's what I was thinking. Baron was Baron.
Old Baron was Baron. Taking advantage of her desperation for his own ends. Oh, wait. So now he's using her. Okay. Oh, no, that's Azazel. Excuse me. Azazel seduces Mystique, their affair ultimately resulting in the birth of a dimensional tethering child who shared his parents' blue skin, pointy tail, and teleportation abilities. Wait, Mystique had a tail too?
I don't recollect her ever having a
Yeah, I
tail, but
don't.
not to
Why?
say it couldn't have happened.
Yeah, I don't. If any of that sounds completely bonkers to you, worry not. You're not alone. Between its obvious and surface level criticism of religion and complete disregard for the character or for the actual characters of its main cast, Austin's run ultimately went down in history as one of the worst X-Men runs of all time. To this end, newer readers may even be completely unaware of Kurt's demon background, as Marvel have chosen to quietly avoid addressing the subject ever since Austin left the book. That was until 2023 X-Men Origins, the Blue Volume 1, number 1. How many letter or numbers do you have to slap on there? Wait, so that's Nightcrawler? Why is he like a Spider-Man? I don't get why.
I don't either. I'm gonna call it lack of originality and Marvel having no competent people whatsoever.
This bestseller was released not too long ago, November 29th, 2023. The one-shot spinoff from Kurt's current Uncanny Spider-Man solo series, oh, there you go, reveals that rather than Azazel and Mystique, the fan favorite mutant, is actually the offspring of the blue villainess and her former lover, Destiny. As detailed by writer C. Spurrier, continuing her affair with Destiny throughout her marriage to Baron Wagner. Wait, okay. Mystique is eventually met by an admission from the mutant precog that she, quote, would like to build a family, Raven. I find that I would love to build a family with you. Who talks like that? I want to build a family with you. Hey, let's get hitched. I mean, I'll say I want to start a family with you, but who the fuck says I want to build a family? What? Oh my gosh. Anyway, all right, so here you go.
Normal people don't say bold.
There were other pregnancies, other births, before and after, accidents, inconveniences, tragedies upon arrival or here you go. Are we not going to talk about the fact that Mystique just straight up stated that all of her abortions or her other pregnancies were inconveniences? That's how these people see these. Anyway,
disgusting, dude.
I mean, she doesn't say like an abortion, but let's be real here.
We know what they're trying to do. We're not
there's one way. There's only one way to get rid of a unwanted pregnancy.
They're trying to thrust their awful, disgusting, demonic ideas onto comic book characters to make it sound like it's something normal, and that you're magically capable of looking at a child as just inconvenience while magically also wanting to have a family. These things don't mix. People that have this attitude don't magically want to start families. They don't. They're disgusting. All right, go on. I'm sorry. Shit enrages me. That's all. Not the comic book. The reality of the mindset behind this.
What's up?
I said it's not even the comic book that enrages me the most. It's the mindset of the people that made it. Because they think they're so clever and they're not. They're fucking retarded. And their disgusting minds are not fooling us.
From there, as recalled by Mystique to her son, there were other pregnancies, other births, before and after, accidents, inconveniences, tragedies upon arrival. Oh, yeah, they threw that last one in there. But never a child conceived in love. So we made a baby, just her and me. Oh my gosh, this is
No.
retarded. Taking note of Nightcrawler's obvious bewilderment regarding the exact mechanics of his new origin, Mystique proceeds to explain that the pregnancy was made possible by her ability, at first introducing in this moment, to manipulate cell hormones and ribosomes. So, okay, so she's invincible. Literally
Yeah,
invincible. She can now shapeshift her down to the genetic. This is fucking
they don't
stupid.
put they don't put any thought into this stuff at all. There's a reason you have to have
It
rules
is
for a
Nightcrawler.
universe, and if you don't follow the rules, you have problems like this.
To this end, she
Create.
then details that thanks to this command of genetics, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. She's invincible. She's invincible. She was able to craft Kurt's own traits at the time of his conception, noting that Christian, Azazel, and countless others, they were but the shades on my palettes. Oh my gosh. This is stupid. And furthering detailing Mystique's new power upgrade, an in-story letter penned by the X-Men's resident's mad genius scientist, Dr. Nemesis, featured within the issue, elaborates she is not simply adjusting musculature and skin, but rewriting the genomic, or genomic instructions in every singular. Oh my gosh, this is so dumb. In every single cellular nucleus of her body, all at once and all without conscious thought. What? Without conscious thoughts, yet yes, I want to become a dude and impregnate this bitch.
It's because they didn't want to have to actually make sense of this. It was this idea sounds gay to us, so we're gonna do it, but we don't want to put thought into letting
To
it
put
make
it
any sense
differently,
whatsoever.
adds the doctor, Mystique is not a shapeshifter. She's a gene shaper. Her flesh is the most sophisticated biological apparatus I've ever encountered. Oh, fuck off. Oh my gosh, this is so. And that's the end of the. Meanwhile, Kurt Mystique's story is currently set to continue swinging on in December's 20th Uncanny Spider-Man Volume 1, Number 5. Wow, that is so stupid. She's invincible. She's the most invincible uh mutant out there.
Of course, these people aren't creative. They still think they can sell us Captain Marvel and the chick squad of characters nobody likes and are all insufferable.
All the comments are upset about it. That's funny. But yeah, she can just turn. Oh, timeline all effect up. Genetic change into the most. Isn't like the number one most powerful mutant out there, the guy who can literally like change existence. She can just now genetically change it to that dude and retcon whatever she wants. This is so fucking
Yeah.
dumb. Well,
No
enough of
thought.
that monstrosity.
Lazy story writing. Every part of this is lazy.
Yeah, that's so stupid. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and we will check out the last thing I wanted to see, and that is Rockstar's release of Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer. I didn't know I would be so annoyed about the Marvel one. I thought I'd be more annoyed about the Grand Theft Auto one, but that one did.
Grand Theft Auto ain't trying to retcon characters and make them have lesbian babies out their butts.
That was the
I don't
greatest.
think
I
you
can't
might
believe that
shock me.
panel exists. That's so stupid.
It is stupid. It's inappropriate and stupid.
So, as revealed via high-profile game leak last year, the trailer confirms the new installment will partly take place in Vice City, a fictional Miami, and star a pair of protagonists, one of whom, in a first for the series, is a woman. This is about Grand Theft Auto 6. Rockstar was due to premiere its trailer on Tuesday. However, on Monday, an anonymous X, formerly Twitter account, forced its hand by uploading a low-res and heavily watermarked version of the reveal video early. The account which posted the trailer was quickly banned from X, and shortly after, Rockstar published an official version of the trailer, writing, "Our trailer has leaked, so please watch the real thing on YouTube." So one GTA 6 developer expressed their disappointment on social media following the trailer's leaking and early publication, claiming it had robbed them of plans to watch the live action with the rest of the development team. According to a press release published by parent company Take-Two, GTA 6 will initially be released on PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and S, but there's no mention of PC. This is perhaps unsurprising since 4 and 5 were released on console first, followed by a PC port later. So 6 will take place in the state of Leoninda, home to the neon-soaked streets of Vice City and beyond, in what Takes-Two is calling the biggest, most immersive evolution of the Grand Theft Auto series. Yeah, but you're utilizing Vice. Vice has already been done. And I have read that like one of the main writers from the GTA series left because he was pissed off about how Rockstar was handling stuff. So it continues to push the limits of what this is talking about. 6 continues to push the limits of highly immersive, story-driven, open-world experiences. We're thrilled to be able to share this new version with players everywhere. All right, so with that being said, here is the trailer. Go ahead and turn this down.
Lucia, do you know why you're here?
Bad luck, I guess.
All right, you just said the reason he's in prison is because of bad luck. I'll turn it up. Why not? Here we go.
There was a girl I knew. She said she cared about me. She tried to make my world the way she thought it should be. Yeah, we were desperate then to have each other to hold, but love is a long, long road. Yeah, love is a long, long
Well, look who's back. The only way we're gonna get through this
I mean, it looks like a
is by
Grand
sticking
Theft game.
together.
What's
Being
up?
a team.
Looks like a Grand Theft game to me.
I mean, it is a Grand Theft game like this.
Trust.
All right, so you have your. It seems you have your Bonnie and Clyde sort of set up, except the woman's more in charge, apparently. I'm just gonna probably say that. That's probably what's gonna happen. So my reaction, like my thoughts about this whole thing is, to me, it's very meh. Like, well, first thing that I noticed, there's a lot of fat people in the trailer. I'm going to say that right now. I couldn't tell you how many times, like, the very first time I saw this, I was like, there's fat people everywhere in this trailer.
Have you been to a beach in Florida recently?
I have not.
There's fat people everywhere.
Well, I'm
Like,
just saying the
anything-
fatness stood out more so than what I would want it to be. And that's not to say that no Grand Theft Auto hasn't had fat, overweight people in there. But my gosh, a lot of like the scenes that took place and the people involved, most of them fat. But I can't remember, like, it's been a while since I played Vice City. So I can't remember how people were in Vice City. If it's the same Vice City, I'm assuming it is. I don't know. So like we said earlier on, so Vice City, this trailer has sparked conflict between a weird satanic panic that's popping up now because of all the debauchery that they're claiming is going to take place in Grand Theft Auto, which it's Grand Theft Auto. Like,
It's good. There's going to be debauchery. It's literally a game about criminals. That's the gist of it. You're on a criminal adventure. There's never been one Grand Theft Auto where the basis, the nutshell of it, is not a criminal adventure. It's every single game.
So you had that. Then you had the other side of the people saying, well, a woman's in charge, so it's clearly woke. I didn't get that feeling, except like when apparently the prison counselor is like, you know why you're here? And she's like, oh, just bad luck, I guess. Like, if they're going to try to play this whole, I'm an innocent woman and I'm just being beaten by the system, or I'm being held down by the system sort of thing, would be kind of gay. Like, it's annoying, but whatever. My biggest thing that I think out of this trailer that I've seen some people talk about too, and that is the appropriation of what is happening in the culture currently being shoved into the here. And that involves like your obviously your selfies in your video game and like your recording social interactions and stuff like that. That's not the big thing. But we saw people twerking. We saw a lot of hip hop element into this sort of thing. And the reason for me why I think this trailer is just meh is just because a lot of that stuff I think is fucking stupid in general. Like twerking to me was just created so that fat overweight people can feel like they can dance in some way shape or form because they can just jiggle their ass, and there you go, I'm doing something that otherwise I couldn't doing because I'm so heavy or whatever. But it made me think about like what is the limit of what we want to appropriate from our culture currently and put it into a video game. And again, I might be ignorant of the progression of how GTA was because I never kept up with GTA. But for me, it's getting to the point when there's certain parts of the culture that I just find annoying and stupid, and I'm seeing that plastered inside of a game. It makes me not really care about it, sort of thing, because it goes back to that element of I want to play a game to kind of get lost into the world, sort of thing. And if those aspects of culture has to be incorporated into it, how much is that going to overpower it, sort of thing. But I
What
don't
what's the time period it's supposed to be in? Is this supposed to be in present day?
see. That's what I'm thinking. That's why I'm thinking this is set in present day, and I think present day is really crappy. So I'm not gonna it's like, oh boy, I can now see present day inside of a video game when I could just step outside and see the exact same thing.
Well, I think it's kind of like, Scarface the movie was a time period movie where it was based in its period,
Hmm.
which wasn't that far removed from when it was made. And you could have looked at it when it came out of being in its time, but in its time, drug dealing Cubans were easier to present in a cool, interesting bad guy way,
Hmm.
where the debauchery stuff wasn't as necessary. Like, yeah, there were probably hookers and all those things involved too, but you didn't get it
Yeah,
shoved down your throat even in that context. It was more the story of Tony Montana and his rise through, being a coke dealer
funny enough,
in Miami. Yeah,
funny
rather
enough,
than
I'm playing the Scarface video game, which is literally a GTA clone.
yeah, but that's like
But
it's tough. It's tough when we're running into the issues of
hmm.
these games have always been about crime and debauchery,
Hmm.
but now we're getting a dose of a modern day version of it, which is even less. It's like it's not even interesting, which is the catch. But I don't know. I'm in between because I'm like I get it from
That's
both
where I'm
sides.
like, that's
Like
why I say
yeah,
that's why I said this trailer is meh. Like I
yeah.
100% don't laugh at the people that are trying to get this game banned and say like conservatives shouldn't support this and stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, number one, you guys probably don't even know what the hell you're yelling about because you probably don't actually know the history of why you're screaming everything is from the devil and stuff like that, which
Well,
just
conservatives don't support it. Conservatives have never supported
Mhm.
GTA games to begin. It's one of those things where it's like nobody's saying it's the concepts are good or moral.
Yeah.
It's and complaining about a video game is so petty at this point because we're so far past like
Mhm.
we have real problems and we have real issues and none of it's caused by a video game. It's all caused by
Yeah, and
people
that
in power, and they don't want to acknowledge the people in power because that would require them to actually do something legitimate or take a real risk. Attacking a video game is about the most riskless thing you can do. It's kind of like when
Mhm.
you see a liberal attacking Christians. It's like there's no risk in that. Go attack Muslims. See how that goes for you. It's the
Mhm.
same thing.
And
It's
you
such
brought up an
a
excellent you brought up the excellent point of the old tired uh counter argument of all video games are bad and violent sort of thing, or causes violence, when we know it doesn't. There's been studies and studies that clearly show that there's no connection between any of them. It's the person sort of thing.
Mhm.
And it's, yeah,
I
my
mean, don't
biggest
get me
thing, my
wrong. I think there's a lot of video games I would not let my children near, but that's
Mhm,
because they're too young, and that game was not intended for them to begin with.
exactly. Well, that stems from parenthood and
Yeah.
parent responsibility, to which that's where all this kind of stemmed from, because you had Mortal Kombat come back out that was super bloody, over the top, and it literally created the video game's rating mark because mothers freaked out. But
Yeah.
yet it was all, the response could be, well, are you watching what your kids are playing? If And it's like,
People
well,
thought
well, it's like,
it
well, why is it our responsibility to warn you? You should know what you're getting what your son and kid are ingesting, or what
and
have you, you know?
and it's not even like it's hard to know that stuff. It's super easy. You can literally, a kid can ask for a video game. You can look it up on YouTube, on anything, and get a pretty good general idea from a 2-minute trailer,
Mhm.
just like with this, of kind of what your kid's getting into. My 5-year-old loves video games. But you know what? Uh, she's attracted to the right things for her age. Like it's more of like an issue for little boys with that stuff. At least with little girls,
Mhm.
all they want is Minecraft, Roblox, and anything that's similar. They're
Yeah.
really not they're really not attracted to things that look gory or scary or gross.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, when I was a kid, when Mortal Kombat came out, because it was huge. I mean, it was massive. It's hard for me to even describe to people sometimes the hype that existed around certain things from when I was a kid, because it was like Beatlemania. It swept
Mhm.
the nation. Mortal Kombat, the first Batman movie, like there were just a handful of things like that. And parents would do this stupid thing where they would be like, "Oh, well, my kid played it," and at the store, and when I told them to stop because we had to leave, they started acting like a brat. It's like, it's because you told your kid you had to leave Toys R Us without buying them anything, and now you're taking them away from the sample video game they're getting. Your kid's always been a brat. They act like they're children. They're acting like children. The Mortal Kombat did not cause them to magically act like children. They act like this all the time. You just pick this one weird instance and this one weird thing to pinpoint is what caused your child to act up in the moment, instead of all the obvious things that
Mhm.
cause them to act up. And I mean, I heard that so much. Even my boomer ass mom would repeat the stupidest things like, well, my friend at church told me that her son played Mortal Kombat in Toys R Us, and he started trying to kick and punch the minute that they walked away from the video game. It's like, it's because he was a little boy being pulled away from a video game that he got to spend all of 2 minutes on before his parents tried to be like, we're just looking. No kid wants to go into Toys R Us and just look. Buy them something. There's always something inexpensive. You can sue the child very easily. I can take my kids to the dollar store and buy them $25 worth of dollar store junk, and they are so happy. They just
Yep.
got a heap of junk, and they're totally satisfied with that. It's ridiculous how boomer parents will blame every single thing in creation except themselves for why their kids act like complete pieces of shit, when it's all boomers. Boomers are single-handedly the most worse, the most selfish, um, self-indulged, useless generation to ever exist in this country. Awful, awful people. And I mean, my own parents are boomers. And don't get me wrong, I love them, but they cause more damage to the youth and to the United States and to culture and to Christianity than any generation in the history of this country. The late 60s and the generation of love that they all came from, of just do whatever you want, fuck whoever you want, do what, that's all you guys boomers. That's not your kids. That's not Mortal Kombat. That's not GTA. That is you people. You disgusting people. You're awful.
Fig says, "Amen. Boomers are the reason why we are in the state of society." Yep.
They are. They're who's running this country right now. They are responsible for the degradation of Christianity. It's 100% boomers. They drive me nuts with their self-righteousness and their lack of self-awareness for
Mhm.
what a terrible
And
generation they are.
this is I've said this before too, and it's again, it's the main point is that boomers and conservatives don't understand why they're not winning the culture war. And it's like, well, it's because you say the culture war is literally everything evil in this world and stuff like that. And the harsh reality is that you can only present this like we've seen videos of those really corny bad like Bible based videos out there that are so corny and bad that it makes people not want to watch it and stuff like that. We've seen that.
Yeah.
But this is the lack from understanding of what the scripture actually says because everything good came from God. All this
Yes.
stuff that's like here and stuff was good at one point. It's just become infested and corrupted and whatnot. Now, I'm one to where it's like if you're at least aware of kind of where polytheism, like their history and stuff, because let's be honest here, a lot of the liberal arts and stuff are that's where all of it came from, is from your seven sacred sciences and all this stuff and the stories that we hear from superheroes in action and stuff. You can trace that all back into, your fallen angels and your stuff like that. It's their history that they're preserving, that they're showcasing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you're going to that you're just going to like get mind controlled, like everything is all mind controlled and you're going to get absorbed and stuff like that too.
We're
Rest
not all as gullible as boomers think we are because
Mhm.
boomers were so gullible. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing is they project their stupidity and their gullibleness and the fact that if the boomers notoriously they see something on TV they think it's real. They see a movie subtext with based on true events and think they'll quote the movie. Like I can't tell you how many stupid people I know think Schindler's List is real. It's not real, people. It's literally it was a fictional story wrote in the 80s. It's not real. And boomers will sit there with everything they've seen and they just I don't know, it's ridiculous. I could rant for days. They drive me insane with how gullible they are and how they will mock and gawk at other people when they'll literally believe anything they see on TV.
My whole thought on the process is you can't use the excuse of being gullible and this and that anymore and everything's evil and stuff like that. You can't use that excuse anymore. Like the scriptures clearly states at time that you're in warfare and sometimes you have to step onto the battlefield whether you want to or not. Like that's kind of like how I look at it. And if you can at least be aware of kind of the origin of everything, it's not gonna like pollute you and like corrupt you. Now, some people now like depending on what's happening, sort of thing, like definitely like your weirdos and your occultists out there, they'll definitely try to demonically charge stuff and then send it out and like
For
do
sure.
something like that. Like it's happened before. Like they do try to do that sort of thing. But if anything, that just goes to show that you need to be more aware of that stuff and kind of with your own understanding, decharge everything. That's how I look at it too.
It's almost like in a nutshell, it's the reason you pray over food. You
Yep.
sanctify your meal. You know, it's the same idea, but you got to apply it
hmm
to things other
And
than food, you know.
and Grand Theft Auto is that one can be, yeah, you can be a little bit of the art, like you can kind of give of the argument. Like some of the people that I listen to, some of the sermons they preach, one guy who I think is really good and knows what he's talking about, he's against video games because, and he'll bring up the topic of, oh, the Bible talks about you don't want to glorify bloodshed and stuff because, during the time when the Romans were taking over everything, you had the Colosseum, and that was what that was all about is the gratuitous bloodshed and that sort of stuff. I understand that, but
Nobody
a lot of video games don't just be like this video game is here to murk. many people. Now, I know there's some examples that there are, but that's always their go-to is Grand Theft Auto or Manhunt or something like that. But then at that point, it's like, but it's not real. You know, it's not real.
It's not real, and in most cases, it's not even being glorified. You know what I
Exactly.
mean? It's a
No, that's what
tale
I
to
was
tell
getting
you how
at. Is
terrible it is. Yeah,
like, what if I made a video game that talks about you going around killing the Nephilim tribe? It's
exactly. What
scripturally
if we made a
accurate.
game about David slaying people?
Exactly. It's scripturally accurate. Would they have a problem then if I did that with violence? That's how it happened. They didn't
They
just.
can't. They cannot wrap their brain around the fact that the Bible itself is not just a guide, not just the Word of God, but a historical record. And if you can't acknowledge that the Lord has no qualms with completely slaying creatures that are not supposed to exist, things that aren't real, and those things have blood. Those things have blood in them too, and they have guts. When they get
Yep.
cut open, their guts spill to the ground the same as ours. And
Mhm.
it's it's a reality you have to face. It's like people that get so obsessed with like just the portion of the New Testament that's Jesus. It's like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's obviously the most important part, but to not acknowledge God's wrath is just ridiculous. It's
Yep.
silly. It's like you said, trying to paint it all sunshine and flowers. The Bible
Yep.
is 90% not sunshine and flowers. It's a grim reality of
One
the
of the
world.
yeah. One of the things to stop a Nephilim, or I mean, Nephilims are post flood or pre flood, The Raphaim, which are hybrids of the Nephilim, those are post flood. But your Goliath, like a lot of the giants, had an ability to heal themselves very quickly, and the only way to like certify to make sure they did not come back was to cut their heads off because that
Yep.
sudden joltness cut everything off at the right then and there. If you read David killing Goliath, it says he slew him 2 times. When the rock hits him, it said he slew him, and then when he cut off his head, it slew him.
And he rushed to do it. He ran. That was the first thing he did after that rock hit his head. Was he ran to that body as fast as he could, got that
Yep.
giant sword out, and lopped that head off. It's and that was a problem with giants. That's why you had to do that, because
Yep.
they were supernaturally charged. You know, they were us on steroids. More teeth, more fingers, healing faster,
Mhm.
even more pungent. You know, they created body odor that was just even worse. Everything was amped up, and
Yep. They knew
they were.
they knew tracking, expedition. They learned a lot of the stuff from their fallen angel mothers and well, fathers.
Yeah,
Some very rare mothers, but for the most part that. Well, we were over the 2-hour mark, so we got in all the stuff I wanted to talk about. The GTA, more so, we got focused on the Nightcrawler stuff because that one was just stupid. The GTA one, I wasn't. I think, like I said, like I'm with you, Joe. I'm right in the middle. It's like, meh, whatever. I think the
it's not worth the
satanic panic
trouble.
about it
Yeah.
is stupid, but I also think the appropriation, a lot of the current modern culture appropriation is also stupid because I think it's stupid in general. So why would I want to see it in a video game? But yeah. What were you
It
saying
is
though?
what it is.
Yeah.
It's just all of it's silly. It's you can tell it's all contrived.
Yeah.
It's all people just trying to jump on something to be the noisiest and the most obnoxious about whether they're for or against it. And it's we're in this weird time in history where you're not allowed to just not care about something. You know, can't I just not care? Can't I
Yeah,
just acknowledge this
exactly.
isn't worth the time to be for or against in any extreme way?
Hmm.
It's it's I subtle people being subtle is just a lost art. You know, humility, lost
I
art,
tell
all
you
of it.
what brought everything together though is apparently that Godzilla -1 doing the Lord's work.
Yeah,
So,
God loves giant lizards.
hmm
Well, he does for a little while until he rids the planet of them.
yeah. But we'll go ahead and we'll end the show there. So thanks again, Joel, and everyone who hung out. Go check out Death because it's awesome. And Joe's working on it, making sure it's going to be as best as possible, and hopefully we'll be breaking more goals along the way. And
Yes.
before you know it, it's in your hand, and you get to see some 300-page awesomeness.
Yes. Well, I'm gonna hop to some things, yes, that I gotta go do here. Greg, great talking to you. I'll catch up with you again here, brother, here soon. Audience, thanks for tuning in, and I look forward to the next show.
Yep. Hopefully we'll try to get more people on. Always working. But, it's like trying to corral a bunch of cats. You can get their attention for a little bit, but then they wander off. It's like, no, wait, we were planning something. Come on, come back.
Gotta keep dangling shit in front of their face.
Apparently so. But catch you guys later. Make sure to like and subscribe. Take care. God bless. And catch you guys on the flip side. Peace. See ya.
Later, gang.